Okay, let's dive in. When you, picture Goa, your mind probably jumps straight to, well, beaches, right? Sand parties, maybe?
Yeah, pretty much the standard image. And look, the sources we looked at, they acknowledge that's part of it now, but they pivot pretty fast.
They really do.
What's interesting is how these sources frame Goa as fundamentally more layered. They really push past that surface level tourist thing.
Right.
They show it as this, vibrant mix, definite threads of history, spirituality, and a culture that's, well, uniquely Goan.
And that's really our mission with this deep dive into your sources, to unpack what actually creates that uniqueness, the substance,
Exactly.
Sources jump right into this blend. They talk about places where history isn't just something you read about. It's kind of standing right there. You can almost touch it.
Absolutely. That Portuguese colonial legacy is a huge theme the sources explore. You see it plain as day in Old Goa.
Those huge churches.
Yeah, centuries old, still dominating the landscape. They're mentioned specifically as key landmarks in the material.
And it's not just the big monuments, is it? Your sources also mention places like Fontaines, described as India's only Latin quarter.
Fontaines. It's a great example. It's where that cultural fusion isn't just history. It's alive. Painted on the walls, the narrow streets, the houses. Feels very current.
So this physical mix of history and culture.
Yeah.
How do the sources say it influences the actual vibe of Goa, the feeling?
Okay. That's where they bring in a really central idea for understanding the Goan spirit. Susagad.
Susagad, yeah, that word definitely stands out.
It comes up again and again. It sort of defines a specific way of life there.
It gets translated, roughly, as peaceful or laid back, right?
Yeah.
But the sources suggest it's deeper than just being lazy or slow.
Oh, much deeper. They really stress it's a conscious approach to life, a kind of contentment, an ease that you see in daily interactions. One source even calls it almost a reset button for the soul. It's that feeling you get maybe watching fishing boats on the Mandovi River, just noticing that unhurried rhythm.
Right.
Or, making time for an afternoon siesta, lingering over food with family. It's about being present, not rushed, even with everything else going on.
So it's like an undercurrent, different from the high-energy party reputation sometimes.
Exactly.
And the sources back this up with some concrete facts too, right? To flesh out this identity. They mentioned Goa's statehood day, May 30th, 1987. That seems important.
Very important. It marked its distinct political identity within India. After centuries under Portugal, a key moment.
And the languages reflect that too, don't they? Konkani, Marathi, English.
Yeah, that mix tells the story. Konkani's the local heart, Marathi connects it regionally, and English is, well, colonial past plus modern life.
And this cultural fusion, the sources explicitly call it a mix of Indian and Portuguese influences. It's not just theoretical, it's in the air, the buildings, the language, and maybe, especially the food.
Oh, definitely the food. They mention classics like Goan fish curry rice, a total staple, and vindaloo, of course.
Which has Portuguese roots, but it became something totally Goan.
Precisely. These aren't just items on a menu, they're like edible history. Shows how cultures didn't just coexist, they actually blended into something new.
Yeah.
The sources keep coming back to that. Goa's identity isn't just one thing, it's this dynamic mix. You see it from a huge UNESCO site like the Basilica of Bom Jesus, down to the colorful streets of Fontaines, and in those quiet moments of Susagad.
So wrapping this up, what have we learned from digging into these sources? It seems clear Goa is way more than just its famous beaches like Baga or Palolem. It's defined by these really deep historical layers, this living cultural blend, and that almost spiritual sense of Susagad. It's not just somewhere you go. The sources show it's a distinct feeling, a whole way of life shaped by these things.
That really is the essence the sources get across, and maybe that leaves a thought for you listening. Think about this idea of Susagad, that peaceful, unhurried way of being. How might finding moments of that kind of presence, that Susagad, show up in your own life? Or, looking around you, what historical or cultural blends in places create their own unique, sort of palpable vibe? Something to think about.